Hey, Stephanie, thanks so much for taking out the time today to chat with me. So we were chatting before we started recording, but to get into it, let's talk a little bit about like your background before you got into real estate, and then we'll speed up to what you're doing today.
Yeah, super excited to chat. So I guess, my story starts like a lot of realtors where I come from corporate finance 9 to 5 and I just thought I could do it better. So my husband or boyfriend at the time and I both decided to leave that. We turned in our 2 weeks, got our licenses and started real estate full time. And that was back in 2014, 2015. It was a lot different back then than it is now. And we very quickly realized we had no clue what we were doing because we had no experience whatsoever in the real estate industry. So going full all in came with its own challenges, but we figured it out. Took us a couple of years to really get our stride. And now we're a small but mighty top producing team here in the Phoenix Scottsdale area. And we also coach other agents as well. So it's been a lot of fun. And I think the most fun has been just seeing how the industry has changed and evolved over almost 10 years. It's been kind of wild.
Yeah, for sure. What is it? Let's go back real quick. What is it like when you left your W two? Like, how scary was that? 2014 was like coming off, this rocky real estate market, and then, especially Phoenix got hit really, really hard. So, how do you feel? Like you and your husband looking back then, and then kind of going through that process.
Yeah. I mean, at the time, I was so desperate to get out of the 9 to 5 that I was just game for whatever. And real estate was actually my husband's idea. And he had always wanted to be a realtor. He had family who was in real estate. And he came to me with the idea and said, "Hey, you know what? I'm done with this. I'm gonna go, take these classes. Do you want to do it with me?" And I said, "Sure, that sounds great. I'm crying on the way to work every day because I hate my job so much. Let's do it."
Yeah.
Without really understanding what the implications of that actually meant. And I think it took us about 3 months. And I feel like I'm painting a really bad picture of us. Like I feel like I'm a more reasonable person than looking back I was. But it took us about 3 months to really realize that, oh, so it's not just to show up and where's the houses to sell. It's you gotta like you have to create every opportunity. You have to create your own luck. And it was a completely different skill set than I had ever really used in the past. And so it came with a lot of learning and a completely different mindset than in W 2, where everything's kind of prescribed to you. And you just kind of have to take what your uppers give you and tell you to accomplish. You kind of had to figure it out for your own on the other end, which was interesting.
Yeah, I look at real estate sales as like a business, right? Like you gotta, and no one tells you that. Everybody's just like, yeah, go get your license and you're gonna get, 5, 10, $20,000 checks left and right. I think that that's everybody sees not even like let's go back from like Instagram and Facebook and stuff like that, like, before that time, same
Mhm.
thing. Like, they'd be like, "Oh, yeah, my mom sold the house and, the agent got, like, $5,000." Like, "Great, I could do that easily." And then it's growing a business, not really selling homes. I mean, it's selling homes and negotiating, right? But it's really growing the business.
Yeah, you don't see the 90% of work that leads that agent up to that point of even being able to submit an offer. And I think that the industry, I'm very critical of our industry. I think that they do an extremely poor job of helping agents understand this. I think that the barrier to entry is set to be really low for a reason. And I think that that sets a lot of newer agents up for disaster. I
Mhm.
mean, there was a point at like 6 or 7 years into the business where my husband and I looked around and we realized nobody that we started with during that time was still in the business
Yeah.
because they had all had to go on to find other lines of work because just for whatever reason it just didn't happen for them. And I think that our ability to really understand that like we had to operate like a business from sun up to sundown and create those opportunities ourselves, I think that's what really helped us be in that like 10% of agents who ultimately continue on past their 5th year.
Yeah, I mean, I know we could all get in the statistics and everybody can Google them on, how many agents fail within the first 5 years. But you hit the nail on the head because we're just coming off 2.5, 3 years of just, reeling of now, it's kind of funny because like the last like 6 months, people are like eight, get my license, get my license, get my license. And now like, you know, no one's coming up to me and saying that.
Mhm.
So, you know, feeling the 6 to 7 years of like, okay, you grind it out, and then you looked back and found out that, like, not too many people were in the same boat as you, and they were out of the business. How do you feel the past 2.5 to 3 years went for agents? And, you have a strong opinion, which I agree with your opinion. I think that, there's a low barrier of entry, and then there's a low barrier entry, like you said, kind of like designed, because you have, National Association of Realtors and everything else that, collects a fee for people to be in. But there's no education behind like saying, okay, well, this is a true marketing plan, not just like posting a picture about yourself selling a house. Like you got to really like go, deep on that, right?
You got to be careful because you could open up a crazy can of worms with me on this topic.
Okay.
So this is why I ultimately got into coaching. So my husband and I, we're still producing realtors, like we're selling and buying both sides of it. But I always joke when you get in business with your spouse, you need an outlet. And my outlet became kind of tackling this like very personal grievance I had with the fact that there, like you said, there is no like education for realtors beyond passing that exam. And the last couple of years could not have illustrated this fact more. Where 2020 happens, we have the initial shock and crash of the markets right after the pandemic hits and all the restrictions go in. And half the realtor population is expecting the industry to completely implode. And the other half of us are like, all right, scrambling, like, how do we pivot? What do we do? And we keep on just making it through. And of course, 2020 turns out to be one of the craziest real estate markets ever, followed by 2021, even more crazy, the first half of 2022, like insane. And
Hmm.
so many agents got licensed during that time period. And all you had to do was kind of take a step out and you get hit in the head with the lead of somebody looking to buy because it made so much sense to buy. Number one, interest rates were so low, as we know, and number two, nobody had anything better to do anyways. It was a
Yeah.
pandemic and everybody spent all that time looking at the four walls around them, just resenting it and wanting a change. And
Yeah.
so buying real estate made a lot of sense, and I think that created a lot, maybe not necessarily a level of complacency in new agents, but a complete lack of understanding of what would actually have been required of them once the market shifted. And I just, in coaching, work with a lot of newer green agents who have never experienced a market shift. And because they got into the market during the white hot 2020, 2021, have absolutely no semblance of what normal actually is. And it's been really challenging for them because they never had to learn those skills. They had never had to learn the skills of negotiating for a client or necessarily like competing against another agent for a reason other than convenience.
Yeah. So if I'm a brand new agent and I'm either, on your team or being coached by you, what are like a couple of pillars that you teach brand new people that are in the business?
So I only teach what I do. What I do not do is cold calling, door knocking, expireds. I'm a typical millennial where I have a lot of call reluctance. That kind of stuff is really challenging for me. And I know there's a lot of agents who are really, really great at that kind of thing. It
Yeah.
was never me. It was never going to be me.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for like the softball, right?
Yeah.
For me, it was social media, organic strategies on social media, and the database. So like cultivating a referral network.
Yeah.
Getting into the business, we didn't have a database or an SOI. We just were never taught that relationships were important professionally.
For sure.
So we had to create one from scratch, and then we didn't have an audience on social media. It was 2014. Like Facebook was kind of it. Instagram, a couple of us had an understanding that Instagram was going to be important professionally. So we went all in on Instagram, and that became one of our primary sources for like organic, just free leads coming in. And it's still
Okay.
really important for us today. So we do a lot of that kind of focus.
Gotcha. Okay. So more, 2020 branding, if you will, and 21st century branding on social media, and making sure that you're in front of your clients, more so sphere versus clients,
Mhm.
and then building out a good rapport with those clients that you've already serviced, and then potential friends and family, and also old coworkers and everything else. That's really what you focus and harness on, for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we're not really changing anything that's always been true, which is real estate is built on people and relationships, particularly when you're in residential resale, which we are. And so we just kind of caught up to more, like you say, modern ways of staying in front and staying in touch.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I agree. I think there's a lot of things that are even low hanging fruit that people don't even, think about and do, on just social media. There's some people that are, early 30s, late 20s, or, anywhere, within the realm of having any type of social media access and or availability, and they don't take that to their advantage. And I think that that's definitely some low hanging fruit. You can pay a little bit for someone to come out and do a couple of videos and ultimately get that up, and then people realize like, oh, okay. And it's not like a sales thing. It's a sales thing would be calling every single friend like, hey, like every week, like, hey, I'm an agent. It's like, dude, I know, I get it. So, yeah, that's a good, avenue to take for sure, because I think these days a lot of things have changed, and I don't think cold calling is really. I think certain areas, like my area, for instance, really isn't good with cold calling like that. But I think like the Midwest, I've talked to a lot of agents in like the Midwest and like Louisiana and stuff like that. Like they'll people will pick up the phone and have like a hour long conversation with the agent, and I'm like, I've never had that. Like I could I could make 1,000 calls, or have like a, um, outside sales agent make, you know, 10,000 calls, and they'll probably get 2 conversations.
Mhm. Yeah, no, and the challenge that I found with it, so when my husband and I got into the business, we had, ambitions of starting a family and just developing our lives, right? So the moment I go on maternity leave, for example, we had our first son in 2020. I knew I was going to take months off of work because that's what I wanted. I created a business by design. If the one thing I had been doing was cold calling, what happens to my business when I stop that lead generation method? My entire business stops. So beyond just being challenging in most markets and becoming less and less fruitful as time goes on and consumers get more difficult to reach and more savvy on the phones, it's also not sustainable. And one thing that I really focus for my business specifically is I want sustainability. Like I want the high converting, the super loyal clients who are going to come with all their friends and really advocate for them to use me. That's the kind of business model that I'm looking for. And we kind of call that an attraction based business. And what that allows you to do is if you get sick, if you want to go on a 2 month sabbatical and travel Europe, if you have a baby or just need some time off, your business is going to keep on going because you've developed lead funnels that are going to continue delivering high converting leads your way. Whereas those who are really reliant on open houses or cold calling or door knocking, and I've spoken to agents who have been in the business for 20 years who are still doing this day in and day out.
Yeah.
Exhausting. You're on this like hamster wheel that you can never really get off of.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. No, I mean, how'd you build so speaking of business, how'd you build the business with like you could, have a baby, congratulations. You can have a baby and be out of the business for 2, 3 months. I mean, I know that you have a spouse, so we'll talk about, working with a significant other here shortly, but I want to kind of talk about like how are you able to leave the business for 2 to 3 months and have that still generating income for you?
So a lot of it is just the marketing that we're doing. So what we kind of think a lot of is what is the actual cycle of home ownership that our ideal clients are in. And I guess that's where you start. You have to understand who it is you're looking to attract into your business. That's kind of helpful. It's kind of like marketing 101.
Yeah.
Um, so, and that's really hard for agents to do because especially in the early days, you're like, I don't know, you got a pulse. Can you get
Yeah.
to the door? Like, let's go.
Let's
So
do a lease. Like I'm cool making $500. Let's do this.
anything, right? So you do have to kind of detach from that scarcity and allow yourself to niche down a little bit so that you can build your business. And so we really got an understanding of who it was we wanted to work with, and then we just developed our social media strategies and our database strategies to help deliver us more referral based business and also build up our pipeline with leads who are further out, right? So I think that's actually something that a lot of agents overlook. They hear the, oh, I'm looking to buy next year. I just signed my lease. I need 12 months to prepare. They hear that and they're like, well, deuces, like I need a deal right now. And they
Yeah.
kind of discard those opportunities. Whereas that was actually something that we nailed. So as soon as we understood how to fill up our pipeline with those longer converting leads and also generate referrals that were more right now business, it gave us a really good level of consistency that we could then develop systems for. And by systems, a lot of agents get this a little bit confused. I'm not talking about the CRM or like the ads that you're paying for. It's not software. A system is just a process or a workflow of doing things repeatedly, right?
Yeah.
And so we figured out what that process needed to look like from the point of receiving a new lead to closing them, whether it took 90 days or whether it took 12 months. We developed that system in our back end, just trying to understand what communications we needed to have templated and ready to go, what natural milestones they might hit during that process, and really creating that client experience so that even if we were to take off and go on an extended trip or have our maternity paternity leaves, we would be able to at the very least conduct business with as little effort as possible. And I
Yeah.
think that that's really important to understand. Like, you can still earn 350K or whatever a year working 20 hours a week. That's what's so beautiful about putting these kinds of pieces in place. But from there, it was a matter of once we had the systems, only then can you really delegate effectively. So now at this point, we do have a more built out team. We have some support. We've got people helping us out. So not everything is like, it was never the intention of how can I do everything all the time. It was how can I do as little as possible and still receive the maximum result.
Yeah. I mean, a lot. Well, I'm going back to agents getting out of the business and stuff like that. Like, a lot of agents are sold on, okay, hey, let's just get Zillow ads, or I use that because that's so prevalent. But at the same
Yeah.
time, you can do Facebook ads or whatever, and then let's say the lead is decent. Some of those leads, but let's say those leads are decent, right? You're still looking at a typical gestation period between conversation and then when you're going to transact with that person, if that person gets back to you,
Mhm.
is 12 to 18 months. So like if you spend 750 or $1,000 this month, you're probably not going to close, a transaction, even though it does look great to have a $10,000 check or whatever that may be. You're not going to have that for another 12 months. So you need to have reserves. And then also you need to be able to, as you're doing that, that's why I kind of mentioned that lease thing is like $500 and stuff like that, is because like if you can do some small things in between that time and then get a sale here from doing SOI stuff, and everything else, that stuff's good to put more lures in the water, but just realize that it's going to take 12 to 18 months to really come to fruition.
So in our tracking, we've even found closer to 2 years or more.
Yeah.
Um, and then you're also looking at a conversion rate of 1 to 2%. So say you put all that money in, you get 100 people, maybe one is a viable opportunity,
Yeah.
right? And it just like what you're saying, it's such a great point. It just points to a fundamental lack of understanding of how this business actually works. And you either figure it out through the time it takes to do the DIY approach, or you do this. You absorb information from other conversations on podcasts. You hopefully get linked up with mentorship from a broker or a team. But the fact of the matter is most brokerages and team leaders aren't even interested in that. They're just, they have other priorities for you.
Well, yeah. So I get, well, they want to make money off you. But so for you, what is your experience with when, looking back at 2014, 2015, your experience with when you went on to a new brokerage? or team? I don't know if did you go on a team or a brokerage? What was it?
So we started off as a branded duo.
Okay.
So we were Lugo and Co.
Okay. All right.
And cute.
Yeah.
And after a couple of weeks, we did end up aligning with another team, but it never really turned into anything. So we were still doing our own thing. We still it was really important to us to brand ourselves as our own entity, just in case like that didn't work out. So that was one smart thing that we really did was from day one we started branding our own unit, even though we were on a team. And ultimately, the team just didn't do anything, right? Like it was just, regardless of what challenges were there, the team was never really designed to help us gain enough traction to go on our own. And truthfully, that would be counter to most teams' goals to get any agent like independently productive, right?
For
And
sure.
I think that we kind of figured that out. And after about 8 months of that, we just kind of went all in on our own,
Okay.
which was, again, one of the best things that we did because other agents might say, well, let me try another team or let me try another brokerage. And I think the average is an agent will go through 3 different brokerages in their first 2 years. Which I see pretty often. And it's because they're kind of hopping around looking for someone else to give them solutions. I think that one smart thing we did was just decide to create our own solutions.
Yeah, I've never heard that stat, but I mean that makes sense because same thing. They're trying to look for one leadership, right? They want leadership. They want some leads, but they also want some type of education along the way. And a lot of people going back to like growing a business, a lot of people that get into real estate don't have the backing for like training or developing. They just kind of say, yeah, this is gonna fly at my face, and then I'm gonna try to figure out what's going on in between every other thing that goes on. Escrow falling out, escrow's going sour. They're good, they close, and then they're kind of like waiting for another check for 3 to 4 months, and then they get another one. So there's this up and down kind of path.
Mhm.
But so when you guys went and changed from that team that didn't give you, kind of what you guys really thought that a team should, and like you said, it wasn't as indicative what a team should be doing. What are some? Give me like 3 examples that you and your husband going out on your own. Like, what did you guys learn in that first year and a half?
Well, the most important thing that we learned was to stack your calendar. So I think that one thing, and I wonder if you've noticed this too, when I'm speaking with newer agents, a lot of times they're just kind of like waiting for the phone to ring. And one thing that we kind of figured out that we had to
That
do
was
is
me. That was me too. So,
it's
I,
okay. I mean, I think most of us probably go through that phase. It's how long you stay there, right?
yeah.
Um, and so what we did was we suited up. We used to call it suiting up. So we'd
Okay.
get up at like 9 a.m. Well, not get up. We'd get out the door and ready for business by 9 a.m. We'd hit the gym in the morning, get home, get ready. We were still dressing business cash back then.
Okay. Yeah.
Now I'm just leggings and stuff if I could do it.
Yeah.
And we would literally go to broker opens, home tours, architectural tours. We would hold open houses. We would go to networking events, Toastmasters, like literally anything that we could do to get like 3 to 5 face to faces every day. Like we just
Yeah.
wanted to be in front of people having conversations. We would absolutely stack our calendar with just things getting us out there. And I think that was huge because it did a couple of things for us. The first thing it did was really get us comfortable in having real estate conversations. And the second thing was it helped us understand how people in the public think about real estate. So what questions they were asking, what challenges they had. And by just understanding those, it actually helped us do the second thing, which was really go all in on social media. But when it comes to social media, what do you post, right? That's like always the number one challenge that agents have. What do you post? But if you understand what people are struggling with, if you understand what internal challenges they have about real estate, you just you just post to that. You don't have to regurgitate Googleable content. You can just share a story that might resonate with somebody who had who had a question that they asked you in an open house, right? So
Yeah.
those were 2 really, really important things that we did. The third really important thing that we did was we just kept learning from mistakes. We failed fabulously all the time.
Yeah,
And so
it's always good.
every time we failed, we just kind of did a little bit of like an after action review of okay, what happened and how can we avoid this going forward.
Yeah, what can we do to get better?
Mhm.
And those things, help a lot of, some agents just fail on, one thing, and then ultimately, they're out of the business. That,
Right.
not only not making money, it's those other things. Like I think my first year I kind of screwed up some paperwork, and like I feel like if that happened because the other agent was yelling at me and just wasn't good, I was so stressed out, and I was like, this would I wasn't leaving the business, but I could see someone saying, "Yeah, I'm tapped. I'm
Oh
out."
yeah.
You
Oh
know?
yeah. And what's hard too is you're not seeing those on social media. Like
No.
if you're following other agents, they're only showing the highlight reel and it's very embellished.
Yeah,
So
for
so
sure.
you're not seeing their crying on the bathroom floor moments, which I
Yeah.
was having like every week in the
Yeah.
first
Yeah,
couple of
yeah.
years.
Yeah. Yeah. Mine was just on the balcony, so everybody could no, I'm just joking. Um, so okay, so let's talk about, you guys set out, grew, your team now and the business to be more efficient so you can, step away when you need to, for things that come up with family or, going on vacation. How is it working with a spouse? Because I know a lot of people have challenges with that because, everybody, just like a business partner, right? And I think you'll probably second this, but probably just with a business partner, everybody has different goals, different personalities. So how's that come to fruition, through the years to be better and better and stronger? And can you talk about that so you guys, aren't, um, I guess like, at each other's throats every single day?
I love working with my husband. I think that there are some couples where it works and some where it just won't, and you kind of have to know if you even want that, right? So for us, it was just a really natural thing that we wanted to do, and we never got bored of each other. We never got really tired of each other. But those first couple of years, we did every single thing together. We managed every file together, went on every showing together, and it was kind of a marketing thing almost, right? Because you're getting two agents for one.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so and we also our niche is very much in line with where we're at in life, where it's younger families, like first time homeowners or second time moving up, relocating. They probably have young kids too. Prior to that, we were all out at the bars drinking,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
there's just a lot of congruency there, and it just naturally worked. But over time, I realized that by not dividing and conquering, we were running a really expensive business model. If you think about like a cost per hour basis, you're paying two people to do one job, and you're paying a lot of money for that one task to get done.
Yeah.
And so, after a couple of years of just really learning the business together, understanding it, and getting to know every single role inside and out, then we were able to really make a conscious decision on dividing and conquering. So, okay, your strengths are here. You're going to take this type of work. Your strengths are here. You're going to take this type of work. And we did some like strengths finder tests, the disc and a few of
Yeah.
those, and that was helpful. And we had to learn what each other's strengths were. But just naturally, there were things that he liked doing more than I liked doing, and vice versa. I just happened to really geek out on the back end system side of things and the marketing. And so everything that I did was owning, growing the brand, generating and converting leads. So
Mhm.
everything from first impression to contract were systems that I created and touched. And then
Okay.
from there, it was him. So negotiating, getting the offers accepted, getting to closing. Um, and so that's what really worked for us, but never stepping on each other's toes. We don't really do that because we do separate work, right?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, I mean, obviously you're gonna know pretty quickly if you guys don't, work together well and mesh well. And no, not everybody knows that. Like they're in a relationship. They're like, yeah, let's start a business, just like a business partner, and then it doesn't turn out well, or it goes south pretty quickly. So, um, so for moving forward, so how quickly was that? Like, okay, you guys figured, after a couple of years, like, hey, this doesn't seem financially suitable to do two showings with both of us. We should do, four showings, one each.
So it was more like, I mean, it was probably 2 years into it, I said, "I'm not doing showings anymore." So I would still I just
I'm not
hate
doing it.
I
Yeah.
just hate showings is the problem.
Yeah.
I hate
Yeah.
open houses, I hate doing showings, like, there's a lot of this business that I just really don't like. Just like any job, any business, there's a lot of it that you just don't really care to do.
Yeah.
And it just so happened that it's Bryce's favorite part of the business. He
Oh,
loves interacting with clients. He loves going into different houses. He loves the hustle and bustle of it. And for me, I'm introverted. I don't thrive in interpersonal communication.
okay.
It's something I've had to learn over time as a skill, and I just wanna be in the background and tinker.
Yeah.
And because of that, there's always that mutual respect of, "You know what? I'm not even good at this. Take it." And
Yeah.
for him, vice versa. Like, he really didn't want to he hates being on the other side of a camera. He
Okay.
hates, marketing on social media. He's not as good with writing as I am. I'm awful with numbers. He's just got a way with numbers, and it's a challenge for me.
Yeah.
And so there's a really natural dividing line where it's like, this is where I need to pick up and leave off, and this is where you pick up and leave off.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, that's good because, my wife and I, we do flips and rehabs on the, side of what I do. And she doesn't like being on the camera, but she likes doing all the design, dealing with the contractor and stuff like that. So, and I hate doing that stuff. And if I designed a house, no one would buy it. So that's another one. But no, that's good that you guys found out, for one, what your likes and dislikes are, especially in business and real estate. Like you said, there's a lot of things. I mean, there's a ton of things that I got rid of, first off, very, very quickly was just doing, getting a transaction coordinator in, even when because I was a solo agent and I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. Cause it would be like 10 o'clock at night and I would be doing paperwork. And I'm like, okay, well, now I got to go, lead gen tomorrow. And I'm going to be up tonight or tomorrow night at the same time doing more, disclosures. So that was the first, thing I got rid of. I'm like, I got to get this out of my face.
Well, what's interesting about that is a lot of agents might get to that point and they think, well, I can't hire a transaction coordinator until I'm earning X amount or until I'm closing X amount. And it's like, well, how do you think you get to that point?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
do it by doing both jobs.
No, no, not at all. Yeah, and I'm still at times like it's tough to give things away, but I've gotten better and better at it over the years. And yeah, after the transaction coordinator, it was like, okay, I got to hire an assistant because I'm doing a lot of stuff that should be done by an assistant, and we got to get that person on board quickly.
Yeah, that's a really good. That's actually exactly how we did it too. That exact.
Yeah, I don't know. I've read it a couple of times and I actually forget, but I want to say Millionaire Real Estate Agent talks about, do they do assistant first or they do buyer's agent first?
No, they do it. They do admin and then admin two first. I want to say.
Okay. Yeah, because I mean, I've heard some agents say you get your, buyer's agent and then assistant, and there's no way. Like for me, I don't know how they could do that because you're still doing a lot of the admin stuff, even if you had a TC. You know what I mean? So, that being said, that was a huge game changer to have an assistant. And I know a lot of people going to the business mindset of like, how were you guys able to adjust from like, I'm not sure. Do you guys pay anybody W-2 or is it okay? So how'd you guys change that? Because when you come from W-2 and then you're 1099 slash, you're your own business to now you have a employee. How was that mindset shift?
It's really weird, and I'm actually in some ways, I'm still trying to go through it because you have to go through this big shift of operator to leader, and there's no more, "How fast can I get this done?" It's, "How well can I train somebody to do this on my behalf without them coming back to me every time something needs to be done with it," right? And so it's a great form of accountability to make sure that you're doing the right work to constantly be bringing in leads, right? And it's not something we would have ever really even done if we were not generating leads consistently. So what we kind of found was we need, and this is what I teach too, you need a, at least 3 solid lead sources that are going to be bringing in different kinds of leads. Right now leads, middle of the road leads, and then long-term leads,
Yeah.
so that you have a really diverse and consistent pipeline. Once you have those down pat and you're getting paid every month, then it's no longer a question of whether or not you should, like, it's how quickly can you hire the right person. And once you can get into that mindset, then it's just allowing yourself to have moments of quiet, because you get accustomed to a certain amount of pain
Yeah.
when you're starting this business.
Yeah.
And one thing that I really struggle with is if I don't feel a certain amount of pain or friction, I assume I'm not doing enough, when really this is what you're working up to over all those years. So you kind of have to allow yourself the quiet moments once you get there.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. It's I would say I'm still, at times I struggle with it because it's like, okay, W-2, like, but as long as you train them well and you have good, SOPs in place,
Right.
and you update those SOPs and you reconfigure them to make them more efficient, those are the things that are going to set you. And I know that's like, if you're a brand new agent, that's like, man, that's way too much. There's some that crush it right away, but like a lot of agents, it's like I don't even know how to put that into place, or let alone put a TC into place. So having those pillars are super beneficial for you as an agent. Even if you want to, I know some agents that do 100 to 150 transactions, and they have like 3 or 4 admins, and that's it. They don't even have any buyers agents or anything, and it's like, dude, that's crazy. That's just not my business. But you gotta be able to delegate and put people into place to be successful and be more successful.
I think that's a really good point, and I think one thing that helped me contextualize it, I must have read a quote. I know I read this somewhere, but I don't remember exactly what it is. But it was something to the effect of, if you die tomorrow and your business stops, you don't have a business. And I think
Yeah.
about that a lot. I think about that a lot because we have 2 very successful businesses right now. And if I were to die tomorrow, like, hopefully I don't. But if I
Yeah, we
did,
hope. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
let's
No,
not.
neither
Uh,
of us.
we got some wood to knock on.
Yeah.
But both businesses would continue running and somebody could easily just step into my place. And part of that is because we have thoroughly documented SOPs for both sides of it. We have well-trained people who can step in. And if we hired somebody who had absolutely no understanding of how our business works tomorrow, within a week they would be up and running because they have all the resources they need. And so often if you're talking to an agent who says, "Well, I've tried hiring and nobody wants to work," or "Nobody's going to take it as seriously as I do," maybe, but the problem is probably more so that you suck at leading and you haven't set expectations and you didn't give them the resources they needed to be successful.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean that's kind of going back to our first conversation about teams, agents and stuff like that, being a leader, and being a strong leader. And I don't think, because I can tell you right now, like back in the day, I was definitely never, and I'm still growing as a leader, right? But I was never a good, like, I wasn't born a leader. I don't think that that's true. I think that like people are built along the way, along their path of life, and their character and their personality to be a leader. So to say that like you're born and that's just the person, I don't think that that's true. You may be born with talent, but to be born as a leader, I just don't think that that's in the cards for anybody. That's individuals building their character and personality as a leader.
Yeah, I mean, you could be naturally more assertive than the next person, but the line between strong leadership and arrogance is very thin. So,
Yeah, yeah, for sure, very thin. And then also the line between assertiveness and forcefulness is, that's pretty deep too, because you could be at a point where like, here's some of these CEOs that it's like I would never want to work for them, but those types of things. So your guys, I mean, you coming out of 2014, 2015, crazy market, and then now we went through a crazy market. Now we're kind of like in this like, different market. What are you guys experiencing today, and what have you done to change your business to make sure you keep up with the times, especially now?
So there's keeping up with the times and understanding what the times are and finding aligning your values to that, right? So like right now where we're at in life, we want a peaceful business. We want a business that runs really smoothly. We are not here to be like the top of the top performing agents. We are going to be in the top 1 to 2% because that's where we built our business, but being the number one producer just for the sake of that, it was not something we were ever really interested in. And so, even as the market continues to shift, our question every year is always, okay, how can we do more by doing less?
Yeah.
And I know that makes us sound really lazy, but like we get into this business for freedom and flexibility.
Yeah.
That's why anybody gets into real estate, the freedom to work with whoever you want and the flexibility to work whenever and wherever you want and earn a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
And so the first part is just over time really understanding how to identify where you are in that season of life and then how to cross reference that with what the market is doing. In 2014, 2015, things were really slow. It was a really buyer heavy market during that time. And I think we're seeing a little bit more of that. It's been really refreshing to be out of the frenzy the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And it's been kind of hard to describe that to newer agents who have never experienced anything else because as soon as things cooled down, to them it felt like danger and it felt like something was wrong. But to us, we're like, oh thank gosh, like this is where things are supposed to be. This is what normalcy looks like. And so I think that we'll continue to see a little bit more normalcy. I think that we'll continue to see more of an edge to sellers because of the lack of inventory in most areas. That's still there.
Yeah.
Even with higher interest rates, buyers are still buying. We're seeing multiple offer situations again, and we're seeing a pretty market increase in listings going under contract over the last couple of months, which is really good. So I think that we'll continue to see a stronger market in Phoenix, but we're the first to boom and the first to bust, right? And so we corrected really sharply over the last 8 months or so because pricing had gotten so insane in our area. And a lot of agents want to kind of be upset about that. But in my mind, I think that it's exactly what was needed. And it needed to happen in order to give buyers the confidence that they weren't making really stupid decisions, where I think some probably were last spring. So that's a lot of the conversations that we're having with our clientele. And we're going to keep working with people who really respect us and value our time and value our expertise. And hopefully they'll refer more people like them to us.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is, a breath of fresh air. Even though, like, you're like, wow, it's not as busy in the sense of like, um, you know, putting a property on the market and selling it in literally like 2 hours. Um, but it's nice to have buyers kind of call some of the shots now at this point because I would have like, you know, low down payment buyers and I'm like, I can't even I mean, I can try to work with you, but there's no real way because they don't have 50 to $100,000 to bid over asking. So it's nice to have that difference. So but I see that, just like you mentioned, like I see the market changing where it's, nicer to be in a market where it's more even keeled and you're not just, just slamming properties on the market and, getting them into escrow. That is nice, but it's also nice to have a balanced market. So like you can really have those buyers win. And not every single time it's like, I feel like every time I talk to someone, it's like, yeah, it's still a seller's market, isn't it? I mean, granted, like the last 6 months, they haven't been saying that, but for the last 6 years, they've been like, it's seller's market, right? It's like, well, I mean, it's ebbs and flows. So all that.
Yeah, and I think the other thing to point out too is in the last couple of years, there's been a lot of shenanigans, right?
Yeah.
Like I saw a lot of unethical behavior and a lot of agents who are really taking advantage of the situation. And then a lot of agents too who were so desperate for listings that they completely slash their commission and make it impossible for others who actually have the client's best interest at heart to compete with them. And
Yeah.
I don't think that's something that any of us want to see. Like there needs to be a competitive advantage that doesn't directly relate to commission.
Hmm.
You have
Yeah.
to have skills in the marketplace. You have to have an ability to explain to buyers and sellers why someone should hire you over your competition.
Yeah.
And that I think is going to show like a healthy marketplace when it comes to hiring realtors.
Yeah.
So I think that that'll be a really good thing to return to as well.
Yeah, 100%. Well, let's shift gears here. I have a few more questions. We'll get you out of here. But one is there a online tool or resource or app that you guys are using that's making you guys, be more efficient? You guys sound like a well-oiled machine, but what are you guys using that comes off the top of your head?
We are as simple as it can get. We really try not to deviate from what works for us. We have our CRM, which is Follow Up Boss,
Okay.
and our task management tool, which is Asana. And there's going to be plenty of people on either side of that saying, well, this one's better, and I like
Yeah.
this one, like whatever. It
Yeah.
literally doesn't matter. I'm not here to say one is better than another. It's just those work really, really well for us.
Yeah.
And we've got those pretty well dialed in.
Nice. Okay. And what about a book that you've read over the course of your real estate career that's really helped you?
Crap, there are so many. And a lot of them are going like viral right now too. I think everybody's read and is over Habits, which was a big one of
Yeah.
mine. Essentialism. Have you read that one?
Yeah.
It's a really, really good
Yeah.
one. I think the most important one for me is The Gap and the Gain
That
by
one's really
Gay
good.
Hendricks.
Yeah. Yeah, the gap and the gain's good. Who Not How, I feel like is a little bit better. The gap and the gain's good. I don't know if you've read Who Not How, but that one's really good. So
Yeah.
yeah, that one just talks about, talking about hiring someone that's gonna, you could put them in a place instead of like, how can I do this? So
Oh,
yeah, it's good. Okay, where can people find out more about you? The duo and everything else.
easiest way to connect with us is on Instagram at Bryce and Stephanie. That's BRYCE, and Stephanie with an F. Do not come at me with a PH. That's the easiest way to find us, and then you can explore all the other things that we do from there.
Cool. Perfect. Stephanie, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks.
Bye.